Hi, good morning, everybody. So, Surak, are we good to go? Can we get started?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah. Thank you again for all the people who have joined today with us. And today we have Renganathan with us, who will be walking us through the Azure Cognitive Services, and he'll be walking us what are the features and how it exactly works and all. So let us hear from him.
All right. Thank you, Surak, and a very good morning to all of you from wherever you're accessing. Very good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're accessing from. So, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Renganathan Palisamy. You can call me as Ray. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can look me up with the given profile, Renga Ray. And I'm basically a MCT regional lead for APAC with data and AI as the specialty area. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to look at Azure Cognitive Services, and specifically, we are going to look at speech services today. So let's get started. Now, one of the first things that you need to understand with regards to the use of speech services on Azure is to understand what services are readily available. What services are available so that you can see, choose and pick which of these is going to be suitable for your usage. Right? So for this purpose, what we'll do is we'll look at the Azure Speech Services in general. What are the services available? And also we'll look at in terms of trying to use some of them and see what are the areas in which this can be leveraged on. So the whole idea of this presentation is not to go very in-depth technical about the speech services, but to leverage on it and see where you can get started. So how to get started? Dive in and try those services and as and when you are ready. Now, there's a quick show of hand. How many of you have already started using Azure services, Azure Cognitive Services, especially speech services? Are you already using those services? If yes, please raise your hand so that I can see. Okay, no one. All right. Can I have a quick show of hand? How many of you are new, totally new to Azure Cognitive Services and Speech Services? Okay, right. So I'm getting some responses there. Probably some of you are new as well. So I see some in the chat window. Great. So this is meant for those who are new to speech services so that you can get started on this journey. Okay, so let's look at what is available. And first and foremost, what is needed for you to work with the speech services. So in Azure, you have availability of Azure Cognitive Services and specifically speech services. Either one which you can make use of for the purpose of performing speech to text translation, which includes speech recognition, text to speech translation, in which case I can provide a text and that text can be converted into the uh, synthesized speech. And with the use of neural voices nowadays, it is possible for you to mimic the way in which a human would speak that particular text out, right? So we have speech to text API and text to speech API, which you can use. Apart from this, you have speech translation API, speaker recognition API, and with the help of using language understanding or LUIS model, you can also do intent recognition. That means it's not going to only understand what you have spoken, but what is the meaning of it. Okay, so these are things which you can do with speech and speech to text, text to speech services that's available on Azure Cognitive Services. Now, let me quickly show you on the Azure platform itself what is available. So I'm going to quickly bring you over to the Azure platform, and I'm going to show you what is readily available for you to use. So there's a cognitive services that is going to be provided. All you need to do is to quickly go and create these cognitive services so that you can have access to the speech functionality and speech API usage. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show you how easy it is to create this resource. But of course, I already have one, but we're not going to use the new one that we're creating. So you go and look for cognitive services. Create cognitive services. So all you need to do is to fill up the details of which resource group you want to put this into, which region you want to put this into. So hopefully you choose the region that is closest to you. And in my case, I'm choosing Southeast Asia, which is the closest region that I have, and provide a meaningful name for this particular service. So if I'm going to do race yes, I already have one. I'm going to say race yes 2 for this name. Okay, so you have a subscription. You need to have a subscription. You can opt for free access to Azure by means of looking for the free tier, which gives you 12 months of access to those services. And then what you can do is you can choose to create a pricing tier and agree to this responsible AI usage. That's it. One page. Okay, one page, but of course it comes with some payment assigned to it, and then you create it. That's all it takes. Okay, to create a cognitive services on Azure is as simple as putting the details on a single page. Right? So once you have created cognitive services, the deployment takes less than a minute. What you need to take note of is this two information, keys and endpoint. Okay, so you have under resource management, you will see location. So this is Southeast Asia. Key information. So you take either the first one or the second key, second one being a backup key in case the first one is compromised, and endpoint. So for speech services, we don't actually need endpoint, but it's good to have the details of all these three. Okay, so the thing that you need on the Azure side of operation is this: the key value, the location value, and endpoint in case if it is needed. Okay, these are the three information that you need to gather. And then using this information, we can actually plug this into the our application where we can access those services by means of using the speech SDK or by means of using the REST API calls. Okay, so you can create a multi-service cognitive services which will give you access to all AI functionality, not only speech, including vision, including the text analytics, etc. So you have access to all those services using just one service. Now, in terms of what is being offered, so when you want to use speech to text capability, you need to make use of either the REST API. That means you can actually make a call to the REST API. So this is what indirectly will be done when you're using speech SDK. You can also use a speech to text short audio API, which is meant for those short audios which is within 60 seconds. Right? So you have REST API and you have speech SDK. So depending on which language you're using, you will be able to have access to those speech SDK as per need. Okay. Now, what is needed? What is needed for you to do this conversion? You need to have the resource location and key. The resource location and key. So this is what you will specify, or this is what you will configure using speech configuration. Okay, speech configuration. So later I will just show you a bit of the code so that you know where that fits in. Where are we getting that information from? Keys and endpoint. So location, key. That's what goes into the resource location and key in your speech configuration. Okay. Then depending on what you're planning to do, this will be the audio configuration. So if it is speech to text, then your audio configuration will be what is the source of that particular data? Is it going to be microphone or is it going to be a file? Will it be a microphone or the file? So you have this ability to use these two configuration details and then start using the SDK functions and classes to do the activity. So for the purpose of performing a conversion from speech to text, you have a speech recognizer that will be used to recognize what has been spoken. So recognize a function or method will be called. And then within that method, you will have a few attributes that you can tap into. For example, text. What has been spoken? What has been spoken? So text will give you the content of what has been spoken. And then you have duration in terms of how long a duration was the text going on for, and other properties in terms of the speed rate and so on. And then they have a reason. Reason will be given if at all it is not successful. For example, it will specify that it is cancelled if it is no match or it is recognized speech. Okay, so it's basically going to give you the ability to define that. Now, let me quickly show you how it would look like in the program. So I'm using Python. Okay, so I'm using Python for this purpose. And I have already pre-configured the two important details needed for us to work with this API. Okay, so if you look at the content, if you were to look at this speech sample content, let me show you where I'm plugging in this information. Speech key service region. So key and the region can be used. So this will be the main content. This will be the main content, speech key service region that needs to be configured. And where do we plug this into? We put this into the speech configuration. And where does this come from? It comes from the Azure Cognitive Services speech package. Okay, so similarly, if you're using C#, there is a SDK package which you can download and have it installed. So for Python, this is what you will be looking for, azure.cognitiveservices.speech. And to simplify the reference, it has been given as speech SDK. So under this speech SDK is where you will find speech configuration. Okay, so you will find a speech config method call. Okay, so you'll have your class you will have your class created with reference to the subscription, the speech key, and the region, service region. Okay, and using this, I can call upon the speech recognizer that makes use of the speech configuration to do the conversion. So how does it work? You have two classes here, speech config, speech recognizer. So if you look back at the diagram, speech config, speech recognizer, right? And then we're going to specify what are we going to use to do the recognition. So under the speech recognizer, we can call one of the many functions that is available, many methods that's available, and we are using recognize once, for example. So this is recognize once. That means I'm going to read in the text that you are going to, the speech that you're going to utter. I'm going to convert it once I've recognized that you've stopped your conversation or you stopped your utterance. So we get the outcome in terms of the result. So one of the properties, if it is recognized, we will put out the text content. Where are we getting this from? This one here, properties. Okay, so I have reason and I will have text. Reason and I have text. So I will make use of reason to recognize whether it has been successfully identified. If it is successfully identified, I want to print it out. And if I were to perform the operation with some change properties, by default, it listens from microphone. So I don't have to change anything if I'm using microphone. Let's say if I were to use file input, I will need to do another configuration, which is audio configuration. Okay, you see how it relates? You have speech configuration to identify the resource location and the key. You have the class called speech recognizer, which allows you to configure and use methods that will give you the outcome. 3 steps, right? So you have your resource created on Azure. You configure the speech config class instance with resource location and key. You create a speech recognizer associating it with the config. All right, so you have that one available. Okay, so this will be assigned. Okay, this has to be associated with this. This has to be associated with this. And then you call the method. Okay, you call the method for the purpose of getting the outcome. So the outcome that you're expecting is this, but it can change based on the reason. So if it is recognized speech, we can proceed. Okay, right. So that's the flow of things. So how do you make use of speech and then make use of the configuration? So if it is anything other than microphone usage, you will configure audio configuration to change the source of that text, the speech. So maybe you already have a MP3 file which contains the information that you want to translate into text. So I need to create the audio config class with the reference to the file input instead. Okay, so when I use the content, the speech recognizer, I need to pass in both the speech configuration, the language intended, and audio configuration. Okay, so it's just a series of simple calls that would give you the outcome. So let's see one of the outcome that is going to be used here. Okay, so let's look at the outcome. I'm going to try and speak over the microphone. Okay, let me quickly share. Just let me stop sharing and share with sound so that you can hear the output. Just give me a moment. I need to share with sound. Okay, so let's hear this. So I'm going to choose a speech sample. And I'm going to input speech recognition from mic. So I'm just going to select that one. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing the speech and hopefully it will recognize and convert it into text. Thank you. And you can see here, so what I'm doing right now is I'm doing the speech and I hopefully it will recognize and convert it into text. Thank you. So once it recognizes that I've ended the utterance, it converts it. Okay, is it cool? Easy, right? So it's basically a series of calls that you can use for the purpose of performing this operation. Now, what about the other way around? If you're going to do text to speech, okay? So when you say text to speech, you have few other configurations that will differ. So what is common between this and this is these three things: resource location and key, speech configuration will be common. For text, speech to text, you have audio configuration that's going to use microphone or file as the input. For text to speech, your audio configuration file will be using a file or the speaker. That means we are targeting an output. Okay, we're targeting the output. So earlier one, input is the speech. So you configure microphone. This is text to speech, where we configure the output. So the output will be speaker by default or file. So just like earlier, we have speech recognizer, which recognizes what we are trying to say. This one will have speech synthesizer. Speech synthesizer. And this is going to give you the ability to choose and pick. For example, what voice do you want to use? Which language do you want to do the utterance in? Okay, and then we call the speak text that will give us the audio data. Okay, that will give us the audio data. Okay, to show this, you understand the concept of how to configure generally. I'm going to show this on Microsoft Cognitive Services site so that you are aware of what languages are supported. Let me just give you the link so that you can also follow through. It will take you to speech to text, text to speech conversion. Okay, it's using the same concept as what I've shown you earlier. It's just that this is on the Microsoft Azure API page itself, Cognitive Services, to show you what can be done. Okay, so let's look at text to speech. So just a quick check. Were you able to hear the? Were you able to? Okay, let's look at this one here. Let's look at how to do the conversion. So you have this. Okay, what language do we want to use? So since we have, let's say, Thai. Okay, so let's say this is, we want to speak in Thai language. And you have the voice of 3 possible persona. And if you see neural, basically it is fine-tuned to match how a human would speak the content. So I can choose what is the output language. Based on that, I can choose what language or what persona of the voice do I want to use. Okay, so I can say Achara. Let's say I choose Achara for this purpose, and I'm going to speak in terms of defining the content.
คุณสามารถแทนที่ข้อความนี้ด้วยข้อความใดก็ได้ที่คุณต้องการคุณสามารถเขียนข้อความในกล่องข้อความนี้เองหรือ
Okay, can we have a confirmation? Did it read properly as per the text? Okay, let's try another persona here. So I'm going to play.
คุณสามารถแทนที่ข้อความนี้ด้วยข้อความใดก็ได้ที่คุณต้องการคุณสามารถเขียนข้อความในกล่องข้อความนี้
Okay, so that's in Thai. So let's say if I were to choose a different language. So I'm from Malaysia, so I'm going to try this. So I have Osman or Yasmin.
Anda boleh menggantikan teks ini dengan mana-mana teks yang anda ingin.
Okay, let's try one more. Hindi. So you have Mathur and Swara.
आप इस टेक्स्ट को अपनी इच्छानुसार किसी भी टेक्स्ट से बदल सकते हैं।
Okay. Can you all confirm? Did it sound human-like? And it is going to be meaningful? That means it reads according to what's the text there. Okay, I'm not getting a response. Did you all manage to hear what was the output? Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. So we have in different languages, and all those languages are supported. Okay. So the output or the outcome basically depends on what is going to be the speech synthesizer component that you're changing, which language you have chosen, and it will adapt to that particular language. Yes, definitely. Yemen, Pang Yemen. So basically, that's what neural voice is trying to achieve. Okay, that's what neural voice is trying to achieve. The ability to sound human. Okay, so that's basically the idea of having that speech outcome. So how difficult it is to have that done? Let us look at this one. So I've already mentioned that the core thing that you need to provide is just two things, the speech key and the service region. And you are able to use the speech config class to link to the subscription and region. What's different here compared to the earlier one is the use of speech synthesizer rather than the speech recognizer. So we use speech synthesizer class, and using this, I have the ability to synthesize by calling the function speak text. Speak text. And I have the ability to define what language I want to use by defining the language as part of my speech synthesis speech configuration. I can also choose the voice that I want to use by choosing the language and the voice. That's it. Okay, so basically we're going to use this information. This is the only information that we're going to need. What is going to be the language? So I can define what language do I want to use. What is going to be the voice that I want to make use of? Okay, what is the voice that I want to make use of? So I can choose and pick this information for the purpose of doing this conversion. So if I want to do speech synthesis, oh, sorry, not here. I'm going to enter speech synthesis. Okay, and I want to make use of speech synthesis to speaker. I'm going to enter the content. See how easy it is to speak, to make the computer speak. Awesome.
Hi, see how easy it is to make the computer speak. Awesome.
Awesome. Right? So that's all. You just need to choose which language, which voice you want to use. And if you are not sure of which voice do you want to make use of, then what you do is you look for the list of the languages. So let's say I need to use 15.
15.
Okay, so I press Control Z. Okay, so I want to do the speech synthesis again. I want to get what voice patterns are available. So I have TH, and it gives me the 3 voice persona that we saw just now. So I have Premvadi neural, Achara neural, Nivat neural. Great. Awesome, right? So it's basically going to be very straightforward. There's not much complication in writing a code for speech to text, text to speech. In fact, most of this is being currently used in applications as well. Okay, it's already being used in applications. Let me show you a quick use case where they're using this. If I'm using Office 365, I can go to subtitles. I can choose the language of my choice for the output. And these are the languages. One of the most extensive support for languages you can find in this. So if I'm going to put, let's say, in Thai language for subtitles, and I'm going to turn this on. And I'm going to say start subtitle. Give it some time to start up. When it says listening, I can start speaking and it will do the conversion. Okay, I think it should be listening right now and doing the conversion to Thai language. See how easy it is? So you don't have to worry too much about doing the conversion. The subtitles will be created for you because Microsoft PowerPoint Office 365 is actually using to Thai to do the conversion. Okay, so it breaks down the barrier. So I don't have to worry about whether you understand what is being stated. Of course, there's certain things that needs to be fine-tuned, but more or less we are getting the outcome needed. So you can incorporate things like this into your own application. Okay, just to make sure, I'm going to convert the language. Let's say if I'm going to convert this to Malay language, where I can verify. Okay, so I'm going to talk about text to speech. So we talk about resource location, right? Resource location and key. And we're going to talk about speech configuration. Awesome. Right, so that's basically to show you that it is going to be how many languages can be converted. Oh, okay, is for this purpose is only one, but of course in your application you can say you want multiple languages. So if you see that whole list of languages supported, long list here. Okay, so even in Indian languages you have Malayalam, you have support for Tamil, right? You have support for Vietnamese, Thai, Turkish. The list is long. Okay, so you can find out more about the languages that you can use for this purpose. Another one, where are we using these functionalities? Okay, so where are we using these functionalities? We are going to make use of it in live caption like just now. You also have dictation. So if you're using Microsoft Word, it has been incorporated into that as well. So I'm going to say, thank you for trying out the speech to text operations. Thank you to the organizer. Full stop. We are going to see more features added in the future. Exclamation mark. Next line. Awesome. Exclamation mark. You see the benefit of the usage? All right. These are things which are already in, and for you to incorporate such features is not going to be that difficult, as I've shown you. Right? So other things that can be done. So voice command, I've actually shown you some of these already. Voice command, translation to language of choice. Voice command, basically, you're going to look at in terms of dealing with voice command here. Just now I said full stop, it understands. It said must change the text to full stop, exclamation mark. So that is considered to be voice command. You can also incorporate it with other capabilities therein. Okay, so you can look at the conversion needed. If let's say you want your own language preference, you want to input more changes, or you want to control the changes, that means you want to fine-tune the changes. You can put in those things in SSML. That is speech synthesis markup language. So if you're using neural voice, you can fine-tune further. Do you want them to sound cheerful? Do you want them to sound sad? So you can actually do the whole narration, let's say of a drama. Yes, correct. Right? So you basically can already make use of this. It's all around us, and it's just a matter of using it. And good thing is now you know how to write it into your own, write your own code and incorporate that into your application as well. Now let's see one more before we look at the content. I'm going to show you one more. Microsoft AI Business School. All right. Right. So this is part of immersive reader. Yeah. Now, when you read a particular text, when you read a particular website page, if you're using Microsoft Edge and you come across this symbol, enter immersive reader. If you turn this on, I can go and change the whole content into any language that I want, provided the immersive reader is activated. So if I change the Malay language, for example, I translate the whole page. Okay, there are, I think, some connection issues. If I were to change to, let's say, Hindi, translate, I go and read aloud. I can choose which language that I want. The same language will come here, Madhur and Swara. I can now read the page.
AI बिजनेस स्कूल के साथ AI को कार्रवाई में रखें। हमारी ऑनलाइन नेतृत्व श्रृंखला का अन्वेषण करें और सीखें कि एक प्रभावी एआई रणनीति बनाकर व्यावसायिक प्रभाव कैसे चलाया जाए। एआई
Okay, so I will stop there because I don't actually understand Hindi. So if you can confirm what was spoken there is correct, please let me know. All right, so basically you have these options. And you can speak. So if you miss your,
Put AI into action with AI.
let's say if you miss your English school teacher, right? So just look for Nirja. You have your English school teacher.
AI Business School. Explore our online leadership series and learn how to drive business impact by.
All right, that's it, right? So basically these are the things that I wanted to show you. Let's look at what you can do to get started. Okay, so what you need to do to get started? Set up Azure Cognitive Services. So I've shown you how easy it is. Set up the development environment. Okay, set up the development environment. So what is the development environment setup? You can get the content from here. So let me just put it in the chat window. The code which I shown just now is here on GitHub. You can download and try this out. Okay, and let's look at the setup requirement. What you need to do, if I'm in this case, I'm using Python, so I need to install Azure Cognitive Services Speech for transcription, SciPy, right? So these are the two things that I need, and I can run that particular application just by calling main.py after I've made changes to the content. So get your SDK, get any other Azure Cognitive Services related API that is needed. Maybe you want to communicate with language understanding, you want to do text analytics, you can do that. And then you can also go through some tutorials which is found on AKMS speech app. Okay, so get started, dive in and try. That's the most important thing, right? Dive in and try. So just listening is not going to help much. So do dive in and try and explore more. Okay, Microsoft has come up with speech.microsoft.com, which gives you access to Speech Studio. You have documentation, speech service documentation, which is going to help you understand more in depth about this speech service. You can go to speech.microsoft.com, and this is going to give you ability to create all those projects by using the GUI based tool. So you can do speech to text conversion. You can prepare a custom speech project. You can do text to speech. Look at the voice gallery so that you can find the perfect speaker for your application. You can create custom voice, and the list goes on. Okay, right? So hope I've given you a good overview of what text to speech, speech to text capabilities are available on Microsoft Azure. And with that, I will open up for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Java.dev and also Software Engineering Thailand for giving me the opportunity to be with you today. right? So let's look at what are the features available. I've only shown you a very surface of what is possible, yeah, what is possible with this content. You can have a look at all the other features that are available, right? All the other features which are available. And I would recommend if you're planning to become an AI engineer, probably you want to look at AI 102 course, AI 102 course, which is going to give you the Azure AI engineer knowledge. Okay, right. So with that, thank you for your time and hope to see you in the future events. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask right now.
Thank you, Ray, for the wonderful session. It was really resourceful to see the services there. So, if you guys have any other questions or some doubts, if you can just ask Ray about it.
Okay, you're most welcome. Hopefully, you will be able to come up with your own personalized voice and hope to see some interesting applications coming out from all of you. Please do keep in touch. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Rengare, and have a pleasant weekend.
Great. I think no one is having any questions related
Yes.
to the event. I think it was a really great presentation. It was really it was really wonderful to see the services. Like I didn't know. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. So thanks, Suraj, for the opportunity. Hope to see you all in the future session. Sorry.
Sure. We will be happy to have you in the future events as well. So thank you again. I think there is no other questions, so we can wind up for the day. And thank you again, Ray, for this wonderful session. And thank you all for joining today with us. And have a great rest of the day.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.